So here's a question for you. How can someone who only lived to be 26 years old end up creating a legacy of charity that's still going strong almost 200 years later all across the world? It sounds impossible, right? Well, let's dive into the powerful story of a young woman named Bartolomea Capitanio. Okay, so to really get a feel for her story, you have to picture the world she was born into. We're talking about northern Italy in the early 1800s, and it was a rough time. There was just so much suffering everywhere. You had wars, you had droughts, you had disease spreading like wildfire. Life for most people, especially the poor, was just incredibly bleak.
And right in the heart of all that hardship was this little town, Lovere. And that's where our story begins, in 1807, the year Bartolomea Capitanio was born.
So that's the big picture, the world she was born into. But you know, the crisis wasn't just out on the streets. It was right inside her own home, too.
You see, her family wasn't super rich, but they were getting by. The real heartbreak started when her dad fell into alcoholism, and he became aggressive, unstable. On top of that, imagine the grief of losing nearly all of your brothers and sisters when they were just babies. I mean, that's a kind of pain that could break anyone. But for her, it did the opposite. It just ignited this incredibly deep compassion for all the other people who were suffering around her.
And all that hardships she faced so early in life, it actually led to this one single moment of just absolute clarity when she was away at her convent school. It was a moment that, really, would set the course for her entire life.
And it all started with something that seems kind of small, you know? The girls were outside, it was recreation time, and a teacher holds up a bunch of straw and asks a really simple, but as it turns out, a really profound question.
The teacher just looks at them and asks, "Who wants to be a saint?" And of course, all the girls are like, me, and they raise their hands. So the teacher says, okay, whoever picks the longest piece of straw gets to be the first.
But this is where Bartolomea does something totally different. While all the other girls are just waiting around, she takes off. She runs straight to the chapel, says a quick prayer, and then rushes back. She reaches into that handful of straw and pulls out the longest one.
Now for her, this wasn't just a game. It felt like a direct answer to her prayer. And it wasn't some fleeting idea either. That same day, she wrote it down in her diary as a secret, firm resolution. I mean, what a commitment, right? And that decision would guide basically every single thing she did from that point forward.
So, you gotta wonder, right? How does a secret promise made by a 12-year-old girl actually turn into a public mission that changes the world? Let's see.
Well, when she finished school at 18, she was at a crossroads. Part of her really wanted to join a contemplative order, live a quiet life of prayer. But then she gets back home to Lovere, and she's just hit with the reality of the streets, what she called the unwanted wretches. Just seeing all the poor, abandoned people living in such awful conditions, her heart just wouldn't let her look away. She knew she had to choose a different path.
And man, did she ever. She didn't just dip her toe in, she dove in head first. She started a school for girls who were in danger. She went to visit the sick and help the dying. She would literally gather up poor, abandoned kids from the streets. She even went to prisons to talk about God's mercy. And through all this work, she started teaming up with another amazing woman in town, Vincenza Gerosa.
But here's the thing about Bartolomea. She wasn't just compassionate, she was a total visionary. She saw pretty quickly that just one person doing good deeds here and there wasn't going to be enough. For this work to last, to actually grow and make a bigger difference, it needed something more. It needed a real foundation.
So she got a plan together. She had the vision, she got the local priests on board, and then she and Vincenza Gerosa just began. And I mean, they started with basically nothing in this super poor house with hardly any resources, and then on November 21st, 1832, they made it official. They founded their institute, the Sisters of Charity.
She did it. The foundation she dreamed of was real. But this is where the story takes a really sudden, tragic turn for her personally, right as her legacy was about to explode.
Just 8 months after founding the Institute, Bartolomea died of tuberculosis. She was only 26, just 26 years old. She had poured every ounce of her energy into this mission, and now it was all left in the hands of her partner, Vincenza.
And this is what is so mind-blowing about her story. It just shows the incredible power of her vision. Her life was so short, but the foundation she laid, it was rock solid. I mean, look at this timeline. The Institute is founded in 1832. She dies just a year later, but it doesn't crumble. It grows. She's eventually made a saint. And today, it's a massive worldwide organization.
So what does that actually look like today? How on earth did an idea that started in a poor little town in Italy end up spreading all over the world?
Well, it all comes back to their core mission, what they call their charism. It's basically the spirit of the whole thing. And it's a direct line from Bartolomeo's original promise to show compassion for every kind of human misery and to serve anyone who needs help. Simple as that.
And that mission, that simple but powerful idea, is taking the Sisters of Charity, who are also called the Sisters of Maria Bambina, to pretty much every corner of the globe. You'll find them in Europe, Asia, Africa, the Americas, running schools, hospitals, missions, all of it carrying on the work that started in that tiny house back in Lovere.
Which brings us all the way back to where we started, with a 12-year-old girl picking a piece of straw. Her story really leaves you with this big question, doesn't it? It just goes to show how a single person, with a really clear and powerful purpose, can create something that echoes for centuries. It's an incredible testament to what one life can do.